Hi, this is Colleen with Chats with Colleen. We're so glad that you joined us today for our biweekly podcast episode. This episode is going to be with a young engineer in the Central Florida area. His name is Brandon Bastain. He's a really neat, really educated, really calm-mannered individual, and he's going to give us some insight on what it's like to work in his job, how he got into it, and just some information about it that a lot of us probably don't know. So it's really intriguing. It's really inspiring. So we're glad that you're here and joining us. Also, remember, as a reminder, we are still looking for guests to join us from any genre or anything, any hobby, any career, any story, anything that they want to share to help others, encourage, inspires, or just educate. We're really open to that. We can do them on Zoom pretty much anytime that's convenient for the guest, and also in our studio in Lake Mary. So please like, share, and subscribe and join us. Thank you. Hi, this is Colleen with Chats with Colleen. Today, I'm really excited to have Brandon with me. He is, I'm probably going to butcher it, an FPGA design engineer. Is that right?
Yeah,
With
yeah, yeah.
Lockheed Martin. So, what is an FPGA design engineer for those of us that do not know?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a broad term just because like you can kind of do a lot with it. So the full title is FPGA and ASIC design engineer. So FPGA stands for Field Programmable Gate Array, and then ASIC stands for Application Specific Integrated Circuit. A lot of words, a lot going on, but so we abbreviate everything. But yeah, mostly what my job is I take these processors and I write what's called HDL hardware description language. That's what they accept, like the FPGAs, and it's just like a big reconfigurable circuit. I guess the best way to like the analogy I like to use a lot is like Legos, right? So you can go to the store and you can buy a Lego kit. It'll build, it tells you that you can build a house, you can build whatever. And that's what like would be synonymous with an ASIC. It's a very specific circuit. You buy the Legos, they do one thing. They build that one item. But then you could also buy a bunch of random Legos and just start making whatever you feel like, take it apart, remake another thing. And so that's what an FPGA is. It's taking in real time and also like not in real time, I should say, but you're able to reconfigure it to do whatever you want. Another good analogy would be like an ASIC would be like a screwdriver. It does one thing. It unscrews and it screws. An FPGA would be like a screwdriver that could also be a hammer. It could also be a wrench. So it can do more than just one thing, and you can constantly change it to do what you want it to do.
Oh, wow. And then what inspired you to pursue this type of career?
So I didn't know anything about FPGA like growing up. Like I was oblivious to it. It's a very, very niche field. Um, so when I graduated high school, I've always loved computers, right? So in like middle school, I built my first computer, started building friends' computers. High school came, I opened my own little iPhone fixing like store inside school. So during study hall, I would have kids come in like a business and just like fix their cracked screens, like whatever. So I've always been like a tinkerer for electronics. And so I knew when I went to college, like I wanted to do something in engineering. At first, I was like, oh, I'll do mechanical, but I was like, no, like I really like computers. But what started FPGA specifically is when I got my first internship at Western Digital slash SanDisk. The name got changed a few times. They make like micro SD cards, hard drives, flash drives, thumb drives. Um, the team that I was placed on, again, when you get an internship, you don't really get to choose. The teams look at like your resume and think like, okay, well, he has a lot of like electrical engineering background. Let's take him. And so I got chosen for the FPGA team at Western Digital, and then from there, just kind of like I'll say like I did fall in love with it at first. I think as time goes on, I'm looking to explore new areas of engineering. But yeah, that's just what I got trained on and what I got good at, and it became my comfort. So that's what led me to FPGA, I should say.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. And then since you work at Lockheed Martin, how did you end up working there?
Yeah, so that's been like a long path. I never would have expected to end up like somewhere like Lockheed. Not in like a bad way, but I always thought I'd end up like staying in California and whatnot. But graduated college. I had a full-time offer at Western Digital as FPGA engineer, and I was there for about 2 years-ish. And then we had some deaths in the family. My nephew was born, and having family in Pennsylvania, 6-hour flight away, just wasn't sustainable anymore. I was going home all the time. And so I was like, I need a new job. Time to go back to the East Coast. So I opened up my LinkedIn and just kind of let the recruiters kind of come to me and see what offers are out there because I wasn't in like a rush. I was just looking for my newest, like, what can I do? And then that led me to working at a startup in Lakeland, Florida, as a RF engineer, as a radio frequency engineer. I did a lot with like drones there and everything. Then while I was there, Lockheed reached out and was like, "We really like your experience. We see you're in Florida. Would you be interested in interviewing?" I was like, something for me. I never turned down an interview because even if the job's like not what I want, the interview practice is so valuable just to sit down, talk, and like hash out like your skills. So took the
Mhm.
interview. They ended up coming with like a lower offer than what I was comfortable taking. I was like, I'm sorry, like based off my experience and like what I know how to do, like it's a no. So I stayed at the startup. And then Lockheed reached out again and doubled down to like, we'll up your offer, like we'll do this, 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 this. And I was like, okay, fine. So yeah, that brought me to Lockheed.
Wow, they were really persistent. That's really neat.
Yeah.
And then, so you're from Pennsylvania?
Yes, that's where I was born and raised in a very, very small Pennsylvania town.
Oh, neat. And you went to school in California, or you ended up working there?
I just ended up working there. I went to school at Penn State in Pennsylvania.
Wow, that's awesome. So, what would you say is your typical day like working at Lockheed Martin in your current role?
Yeah, so I'm a hybrid worker. One thing that Lockheed like really sold me on is they've transitioned to a 4-day work week, which I think is like huge in today's day and age. Working Monday through Friday, only having off 2 days of the week, whether you're, like young and single, like married and have children, it's a lot. Your 9 to 5, it sucks. Like that's just the easiest way to put it. Um, so yeah, I work Monday through Thursday, 4 10-hour days, which was a little adjustment. Usually I do like a 7 to 5 type vibe. But yeah, I'm hybrid. So if it's like a more relaxed day, I do work from home, which is really nice. And a lot
Mhm.
of that is spent like checking designs, running tests. A lot of like, so when you design with FPGAs, we use a tool called Vivado, and it's a really nice tool. It's like it's a GUI. It just means like it's an interface so you can like click and everything. And it's really nice because you basically are building these circuits live on Vivado, and you can do that from anywhere, obviously. And then there's definitely days where I'm in the lab persistently. The great thing about Lockheed is there's a lot of laboratories that do a lot of different things, and so like there's certain days where you may be in a lab where you're testing if the hardware will survive up in space. So they do things like baking it in like really hot temperatures, or they put it in really cold temperatures and see how it performs. And then yeah, there's other days where I'm in the lab just like checking my designs. And again, like when you design with FPGAs and you load them and you see them like kind of come to life, it all happens in the lab. So like I can test and simulate on my computer like remotely, but like the real cream of the crop is when you take that simulation and you're like, all right, here we go. Is it going to work or is it not? Like load it up. So yeah, day to day is different, but if I'm at home, I'd say I'm just doing like some light design work, messing with circuits, testing, simulations. And if I'm on site, I'm in a laboratory doing something with oscilloscopes, testing, probing, anything.
That seems really neat that you have the 4-day work week, so you get that extra day off. So you can
Yes,
do appointments and do things that, are hard
it's
to do
so nice.
on the
Yes.
weekends and the evenings. And then you're split up working from home or working in the lab. So you don't,
Yeah.
I wouldn't think you would get bored because you're always doing something different.
Yeah, yeah. And so I specifically at Lockheed, I'm in research development. And so like there's always somebody coming to like my team and saying like, can we do this? Is it possible? And it's like, okay, we'll give it a shot. Like, and so government work is a bit weird. Wherever you work, you charge your time accordingly. So even though I'm salary, I still have to keep a time card that says, all right, I put 10 hours into this project, but then I put 4 hours into a different project since like the money's coming from the government, they want to know exactly man hours being spent on everything.
Oh,
Um, so like there may be days where I'm like working on the same project for weeks, but then out of nowhere, like, Brandon, can you help at this other project for a little bit? Here's a charge number, like charge your time accordingly. So yeah, I mean, in terms of getting bored, usually I'm not bored. Um, I guess something to bring up specifically with FPGAs is when you design with them, depending on how big and complex your design is, we have to run into these problems called compile times where, okay, I finished my build, it looks great, I'm ready to go. And the flow of it is like you synthesize, you implement, which is like where it places the actual pins of your design on the FPGA, and then you can simulate. And so synthesis and implementation can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 4 hours. And that's like even on the low end. There's been designs that have taken like 2 days to compile. So that can get boring because you're like, all right, you hit go. You're just like, what do I do? What do I do? You find something to keep busy, of course.
Of course, right, is work. So, so with you kind of covered this next question with what you just stated, but what are some common challenges that you come into contact, working with the FPGAs?
Yeah. So I think with FPGA specifically, like you definitely run into a lot of challenges, but I mean, that's what makes it rewarding is you're given so many challenges to solve because there's so much that happens within FPGA. You have like timing, you have like resets, clocking. There's so much that can go wrong, and there's so much that can go right, of course, as well. Um, and I think the biggest challenge with FPGA is balancing complexity and efficiency. So like the more complex your design is, it's going to be more power hungry, and resources are not unlimited. So let's talk about like space specifically. If you design a satellite that you launch up into space, your power module can only pump out so many watts to run your system. And so if your design is too heavy, if it's not, designed well, you're going to be eating up unnecessary power, and then power also turns into heat. So there's like you're constantly like battling another battle. Like, okay, I've overcome, like the meticulous like planning and optimization of like the FPGA, but then now you're worried like, okay, like is it going to overheat, or you have to worry about like just like a slew of things. The other major thing I'd say is debugging. I feel like I'm always debugging something, and nothing ever works as you expect it to. Like it's kind of like I said, you put your time and effort into this like design. You're like, I feel good about it, whatever. You hit that compile button, and 5 minutes later, it's like, like you suck. Like something's wrong. Signals off. Something's wrong.
Oh
Um,
my gosh. And then you got to
but
start
like it's a
over, go pinpoint what
yes,
the
yeah.
issue is. Mhm. Oh
Yeah.
God.
And of course, like there's a lot of great tools that help. Like, so if you compile and you missed a semicolon, okay, that's fine. It'll be like line 218 of your code, something's wrong, and you look at it, you're like, oh, okay, semicolon. But I mean, that's the worst and challenging part about it is like you could write, 1,000 lines of VHDL, it's hardware description code, and you go to like synthesize and it's like, okay, you have a problem, and it'll try to pinpoint like, yeah, this line, something isn't working with this line, and you sit there and you look at it and you're like, nothing's wrong with that line, and then 10 minutes later, like semicolon, semicolon, of course, like one little semicolon can derail an entire design, which is crazy to think about.
Oh my gosh. Those stupid semicolons. I'm just kidding. So what do you think are the appropriate skills and qualifications for somebody who may be considering this line of work?
Yeah, so it's very, very, very niche. I can't stress that enough. It's not, I think when I talked to my boss last, she used the word rare to find people that can do FPGA just because when you
Hmm.
go to college, and not that I'm blaming colleges, but there's not many, at least at Penn State, which Penn State's a really big school, so they have a lot of different classes. And thankfully, I was exposed, I had like 3 or 4 FPGA courses, but a lot of the smaller schools they don't go into FPGA because when you major, you're either majoring in computer science, which is more like software engineering side, coding, algorithms, math, and then electrical engineering. It's like very circuits, Ohm's law, voltage, impedance, all that type of stuff. And then I took the middle ground, which is computer engineering. So half my degree is electrical, and the other half is computer science. And then it comes together to make this beautiful, combination of you are working with circuitry, so that's FPGAs are basically a circuit, right? And then I also still code, which is where the VH still comes into play. And so I'd say for experience, like you're going to want like a computer engineering degree. Electrical engineering will work just fine. Electronics engineering will probably get you there. I would say computer science, if you take that route, or software engineering, you're not going to get really any FPGA experience. You may get a little if you purposely try to take courses in it. Um, but the biggest thing I would say is like get your bachelor's in like computer engineering. It's going to give you the biggest exposure. It's going to give you the most like range of engineering because say you go into like I so when I went to computer engineering, I found like I did not like the computer science part. I didn't like algorithms. Didn't like data structures. It wasn't for me. So I found that comfort in the more electrical side, which is like the circuitry and that stuff. But yeah, I'd say just computer engineering degree will get you will get you what you need to
Get you
do.
there. And it sounds like they have to want to really do that detailed work and they have to have patience because I sound like just speaking
Patience,
to
yeah.
you, you sound very patient. Yeah, like you would be, not a lot of people are, they would be like too
It's
jumpy, you know?
yeah. It's not like
Mhm.
typical like software engineering. You could code something quick and try to run it, and it's like there's no you don't have to wait. It's just like okay, oh, it failed, and you can just keep changing in live. FPGA it might take 2 hours, and then it gets to a point in your design where it's like, you know what, this doesn't work, fails, and then you're like, there goes 2 hours of my life is now gone. Like
Oh my God. They could
so,
be
you have to be meticulous and purposeful with like what you do, but
right.
when you see it come together, like when that hits that 100% and you get the green check mark, you're like, this is nice. Like I love this. It's like that puzzle that you finally found the piece to, and then you put it in. It's like yes, like it's
Well,
done.
the last piece. Yeah, exactly. So, for somebody who's just graduating college, maybe who's an engineer or wanting to get into that field, what advice could you give them to break into the field or join a company such as Lockheed Martin?
Yeah. So I guess to not retract what I said earlier. So while you probably are going to need a computer engineering degree to get into the field, there is a slew of free resources, specifically from like one of the biggest FPGA manufacturers. Now it's AMD, but Xilinx is the former name. Xilinx has a ton of free courses online, even if you just want to like learn about it and maybe see if it's for you without spending money on college, of course. Take any of the free courses you can find. The next thing would be, get good at your HDL. So I talk about a lot Verilog, HDL, hardware description language. That is what's used in FPGAs. So system Verilog, VHDL, anything under the Verilog sun there, or I should say just HDL sun, is going to enhance your skills because when they go in, they're like, can you write us a HDL module to accept 2 inputs and 4 outputs? It's like you should know some basic HDL, of course. Um, get really comfortable with like the tools that we use. So the Xilinx Vivado suite, Xilinx Vitus, um, Synopsys has like protosynthesis. They have a bunch of FPGA tools, and a lot of these you can download like a free license. Usually, if you're like a student or just not working at a company, and you can play around. Like it's like a little playground. You need like a good enough computer to run it, of course, but you don't need to put too much investment to mess around with the tools and just get familiar. Again, Xilinx/AMD has a ton of free resources online of all their tools. If you want just like a walkthrough of what does it do, or what's this button, a ton of free stuff. Um, and then I'd say studies like the flow of FPGA design. So like writing HDL code to simulation to synthesis to implementation to test bench. So like just know like point A to point B how you're getting your design to like a physical board to test. Um, and then I think always it's really important just to have like your foundational electrical engineering skills. So understand like your circuits, your logic design, timing analysis, Ohm's law, power consumption, stuff like that. And a lot of that doesn't take too much time to learn. It's very fundamental. It's not like you're getting super, super complex into like the electrical engineering side. It's just more understand that like if you connect a ground wire to this, what's going to happen type of situation. Because again, with FPGAs, a lot of your time is spent, it's called pin planning, where you're making sure all your signals of your design are mapped to the correct pins on the circuit so that you can actually access and use them.
And so, a lot of this stuff, if they graduated with that type of degree in computer science or electrical engineering or something, they would know some of these terms and they would be able
Yes.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
pull up those sites and know exactly how they could get practice in it doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then I've heard some people that are in college, they can get internships at like larger companies.
Yep.
Is that true?
So that's what I did. And that's how I got an FPGA just in general. we have a big internship fair every year at Penn State, and you go and you hand your resume to a million different companies, and you shake their hand, and you do like a little micro interview, like, "Hi," you give like we call it a 60-second elevator speech. You got 60 seconds to make your point to this recruiter and stand out as best as you can because they get hundreds, if not thousands, of resumes, in that like weekend of career fair. Um, yeah, so get an internship if you can, and I mean, take what you can. Like, I went to probably over 100 booths. Out of the 100 booths, I got maybe 5 or 6 interviews. I interviewed with Ford Motor Company, Western Digital, a local company at State College of Penn State I interviewed with. And then out of those 5 interviews, I think I got 2 or 3 offers, Ford and Western Digital. And then it just came down to picking what offer I liked the most. And Western Digital offered, I think, a lot more because it's a large tech company in California. They're like the number one hard drive manufacturer. I'm guessing you're probably using their SD cards right now, the little micro
Probably.
like
Yeah.
camera. Yeah, so
Hmm.
they're huge. And so I was like, not that Ford isn't huge. I'm not personally a car guy, so I didn't think it would be something I was passionate about. But I love computers, and I was like, I use Western Digital hard drives in like all my builds, so I'm taking it. So yeah, I took the Western Digital internship. They pay for all your housing. They pay you a really good salary while you're interning, and they give you as an intern just so much flexibility to try new things. Because when you're that young in college, and I feel like for me, like not that you feel lost, but you're like, what am I going to do? Like engineering is a broad term. It's same for anything, like accountant. Like there's only a few jobs where it's like you go to school to be a teacher, you're going to be a teacher. Like there's no, you don't have to think about like, well, what am I going to do after school? So for me, I was like, if they're going to offer all these different opportunities as an intern, I'm taking it. That'll get me the experience, and I'll be able to touch things that like maybe I haven't messed with, and yeah. But definitely internships are huge. Just getting one on your resume makes you stand out to like be way more hireable. And for me, I was fortunate I got a full time offer after the internship, so I already knew I had a job lined up after graduation. But their internships are so important for engineering. It's like I can't stress it enough.
Yeah, it's like on the job training and you're getting paid for it. So, which is
Hmm.
like amazing. So, with that question, my next one is a follow-up to that. So, what's your perspective on how large companies, including those in the tech jobs, it doesn't have to just be that any of them, but how do you feel they treat young engineers that are fresh out of college in most cases?
All right. I have a lot to say about this one. I so again, this is there's good
And
and
there's
there's
been.
bad, of course.
Hmm.
And I won't say this is like it's not. mm, Some companies just have a culture where let's bring up Google. So I've never worked for Google. This is purely just my outside view of it, right? um, they they give you this facade. They have this massive campus in California. There's slides, free food, massage therapists walk around campus. They have bikes that get you from point A to B, nap pods. They bring you in. They're like, look at this amazing campus that we have. You're gonna love working here. And I think what a lot of young people don't realize is like you graduate and you're salaried, right? You work Monday through Friday. Your paycheck's always the same, regardless of what little or what a lot of work you put in. There's no differentiating in pay. And so like they get you with this like guise of like, okay, well, how about you work late tonight because we'll give you free dinner in the cafeteria at 5? Or okay, how about you work late tonight because you can take a nap during lunch? And I don't think people realize like all these little like features and like cool things that they have, it's just them trying to get you to work more for free. And again, that may be a bold claim, but I lived in California for 2 years. I had a slew of friends at Facebook, Apple, Google, Netflix, all of them. And every one of them, basically said the same thing where it's like, yeah, like, I get paid well. California's expensive, but like you get paid well enough. But then you go to work at 9 a.m. and on a Tuesday and you're not coming home till like 8 p.m. And it's like, that's a pretty long day. It's a 13-hour day, but your paycheck is saying you only work 40 hours. So I would say the big companies definitely have a tendency to take the young, fresh, excited minds that are like, I'm really excited to work. It's my first like big boy job. Look, I'm an engineer. And they just overwork the living crap out of you under like again that guise of like, but we offer you all these really cool things. It's fine. Like we have a good culture, like whatever. It's like, is that a good culture? Like taking these fresh, newly grad college students who you're supposed to help like mold into great engineers, and instead, like I found at least in my first job, it was just, during COVID, again, I could go into this for I feel like hours. COVID made it 30 times worse. Um, but yeah, you go into these big companies and you think that like you're going to make a difference, and then your boss is like, "Well, why didn't this get done? Like, you're gonna have to do it on a Saturday," and it's like my one day off of the week, like I'm working now. Okay, okay, I see. And as it's a seniority thing too. So while I don't want to come off like I'm complaining, because the opportunity I got was huge. It's how I got to where I'm at today. So shout out, my first job at Western Digital and my team and my boss. But it wasn't fun for me. Like I wasn't having a great time. I was learning a lot. I was advancing. I was getting better at engineering, but like my mental health with COVID, with work from home, and then going back to the office, and just that whole culture shift. Um, yeah, I just feel like they take the young kids and just abuse their work ethic, I should say.
Or they overwork them and lead them to burnout because they're a little bit younger and naive and they don't know, and they're out on their own and they need the money and they need the
Yep,
job and they need the
it's your first
experience.
job. You're just, yeah, like,
Yeah. What do you
and that's
think?
where I
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
so that's something that always stuck with me with my first job was one of my team leads came to me and my teammate who also graduated from Penn State. It was ironic how that'll happen. We were on the same team and we were roommates too. It was crazy. He came to us and he's like, with COVID and everything going on, I've moved you both to essential worker status, which means like we could go into the office. Again,
Mhm.
there's a lot of stuff to do in the lab as a FPGA engineer. And I'll never forget, it stuck with me. He basically said like because we don't have families and because we're young, that like we should be the ones in the office, and then all the people with children and families will stay home. And again, this is where he gave even more work. So I had like my daily duties of just my job, but now people have found out that hey, Brandon and his friend, like his teammate, are in the office today. Like, and now I'm getting messages from random people like, "Hey, are you in the office? You're approved to be there. Can you go to my desk and like do this? Can you?" And now I have all these people like
Oh my God.
messaging me every 5 minutes, like, "You're in the office. You're in the office. Can you?" So not only do I have my normal duties, I'm now taking on responsibilities for teams that I don't even work with or even know about because they found out, I'm in the office. And it that's the overworking that really started to like wear you down, where it's like now I'm like giving up my time on my tasks that I'm actually learning and like growing to go help, Jill and HR turn off the computer. And it's like,
Oh my gosh. So that's what I was going to ask. So you said it got worse during COVID. Is that why for you? Because it was like, oh, you don't have any kids, you don't have a family,
yes,
you can just
yes,
go into the office, you should be there. That's terrible.
yes. And it was always assumed that because we were young, that we were just automatically healthy enough that like if we got COVID, we'd be fine. And
Right.
like, and thankfully for me, like I have a clean bill of health. Like I wasn't too scared of COVID in terms of like I wasn't high risk. I wore my mask as I was supposed to, whatever. But to just assume that like because I'm young and because I have no family and no kids, like put me on the front lines. Not don't ask me. There was never a conversation that was like, hey, like without getting into your medical history, like are you healthy and safe enough and feel comfortable working in the office? It was never asked. It was just we were told we were getting put to um, what's the word? It's like what everybody was coded as, like needed status. And there's like a word I'm missing.
Essential.
Essential worker. Yeah, there we go.
Essential worker.
We were told via email, like, hey, you guys are now essential workers. You've been approved. Your badges will work. Go to work. And then again, the word just spread like wildfire that it was funny in a way that imagine a large company, and this it's a big office in California, um, and it's just a bunch of 18 to like 22-year-olds running around because all the older people with families and stuff just weren't there. So it was almost like a playground where you have all these young engineers who have no clue what's going on. It's our first job out of college. Um, we're nobody's here directing us, and we're all just running around with our heads chopped off, getting Teams messages and calls like, "Do this, do this, do this, do this," and it's like,
Oh
it
my
was
God.
chaos. And like you see, again, you find the joy in things. Like it was great for making friends. It was great because again, during COVID, making friends was like impossible. I knew nobody in California. I went out there completely blind, no family, nothing, and so it was cool in that way. But the longer it went on, the more it was like Okay, this is getting like it's kind of like what you said about being like overworked and burnout. You're working Monday through Friday, and then you get a random call on like a Sunday afternoon and be like, "Hey, like I have this really emergent task. Do you think you could run into the office and just help do this in the lab really quick?" And it's like, it's Sunday.
No,
Like and
no,
I would go. I would go. That's the crazy part. I
I
would
know.
go because you're young and your superior messages you like, "Can you help?" And you're like, "Okay, yeah, I'll help." And that's just how it went down always.
Oh gosh. So what advice could you give to anybody? Well, engineers in specifically, but to anybody to protect themselves from being burnt out or exploited in any type of career?
Yeah. My biggest advice would be cautious and be proactive. So something in like the tech world, and every company has a different culture. So again, it depends on your boss, your team. Everything's going to be a little bit different with this advice, I should say. For me, I wish I stuck up for myself more. Um, One of the craziest things that happened was my superior scheduled my COVID vaccine completely, no approval, no nothing. And so I had to get vaccinated to be able to work in the office. It was like a new rule that came months after COVID. And I was gonna get vaccinated. It wasn't like I was trying to avoid it or anything. I was gonna get there. But at the time, the only people that were allowed to get it were older people. So it was like, I'll wait my turn when my age group, when my whatever's called, I'll get it. My superior went above me and my roommate at the time who worked there, and he scheduled us appointments to be vaccinated because he was able to write some, strongly worded email saying that we're essential and we need to be in that office, and without those vaccines, we couldn't be there, obviously. And I'll never forget again that email came and it was like, "Hey, Brandon and friend, like we scheduled your COVID vaccine. You're going to show up at the Levi Stadium football field at like Saturday at like at 2 p.m. and then you'll get your vaccine card and then feel free to return to the office whenever like you're ready." And I was just so taken aback because this is not real. Like you just scheduled me a vaccine appointment. Like, are you my mom? Like this is you're my boss. Like what do you mean? Like
Oh,
so that was where I would say this is where the proactive part comes into. I immediately went to HR, and I'm not normally that guy. I would have probably went to my superior and been like, I don't feel comfortable with this. Like, no, 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 no. I basically went to HR and I was like, is this allowed? Like, I was just scheduled, and I said I'm gonna do it. Like, am I thankful that I can get a vaccine when nobody else can? Sure, but at the same time, like, I was young and healthy. It wasn't my turn yet, and for you to go and just schedule that, like, complete disregard for like my health, my opinion, my choice, right? And HR was basically like, yeah, that's not allowed. Like, we're so sorry. Like, whatever, whatever. And so they sat me down with him in like an HR meeting, and I was like so awkward because it's like it's my boss, like in a meeting in HR, and he did apologize, and I think that's where the being proactive and like sticking up for yourself, but you have to stick up for yourself in a way that's not confrontational, right? So in
hmm.
that meeting, I voiced my opinion and said, I wanted to come to you directly, but it felt like you weren't going to understand where I was coming from. And I also feel like you kind of violated like my privacy, my health, like whatever. And everything ended up okay. Like, apologies were made. I said, it's fine, keep the appointment. If it's there, it's there. Like, I'll go. But like next time you make a choice on my medical decisions, like, don't. And also like talk to me. Like, and my
Right.
roommate was also in that meeting as well and was like, same for me. Like, please don't like, assume my medical status and that I can just go get vaccinated for fun. Like,
Yeah, especially since it had just come out, maybe at that point, maybe you didn't want it, you
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
want
yeah.
it. You wanted, I mean, wow, I've never heard
It
anything
was
like
it
that.
was crazy. It was crazy. And I would say like I don't know if it happened other places. During COVID, things got messy for everybody, not just
Right.
like my company.
Hmm.
And so like and again, they were working with what California laws were doing. So California law was like, I remember if I wanted to go to a bar, you had to have your vaccine card. So like I was always gonna get vaccinated because I knew my life would be over if I didn't, at least in California, right?
Right.
Um, but for young engineers like breaking into like that first large company, just be cautious. Not everyone's going to be on your side. Not everyone's going to be, looking out for your best judgment. And it's important to stick up for yourself, but also like don't be confrontational. I'd say like if you do have a problem with a boss, a superior, a mentor, a coworker, it's okay to have that meeting and say like, hey, like I've noticed, things have shifted, like this. What can I do that we can like amend this or stick up for yourself again. If somebody does something that wrongs you, say it. Be like, why did you invite me late to that meeting? It really embarrassed me. Like, it's okay to have those conversations at work. As taboo as it is to be like, you shouldn't, tell your coworkers certain things or whatever. No, like if you feel that way, tell them. Like nothing's gonna change if you don't.
It's true. But like you said, the confrontational, no one likes confrontation. So sometimes
Nobody. Yeah.
you just gotta like take a step back and think about it for a few days and then because if you do it right away, you're mad,
It's
it's gonna
word vomit. Yeah.
yeah, it won't make any sense. So we're gonna end it with this question. What are some warning signs that you could give young engineers when they're evaluating either an internship offer or a job offer to make sure that they're
Ooh.
making the best decision for themselves?
Yeah, this is a good one. So today's job market is crazy. So my condolences to all, recent college graduates coming up. It's tough out there. Like it is rough, and not just engineering everywhere. Um, I'd say the first thing is like when you look at a job that you want to apply to, look at the description. Does it seem vague? Does it seem like they're like in one line saying like, "Oh, you'll be responsible for taking the trash out," but then three bullet points down, it's like you're also responsible for half the company's like finances. Like, look out for those very like you might be doing this, but you also might be doing this because if they don't know what the job is, you're not going to get anything out of it. It's just going to be messy. Um, really focus on the perks of the company, and this is where you can be a little selfish, right? Make sure it has good work life balance. Like for me at Lockheed, I love the Monday through Thursday. I love it. If I ever get a new job, I don't know how I'm going to go back to Monday through Friday work. Um, it's like you mentioned, Fridays are like my favorite day. It's like I do my doctor's appointments. Anything I need, Friday, I can get it done. So look at the perks. Be selfish. Like, do they have like, good benefits? Do they have like Lockheed is nice because for non-work things, we have like a whole laboratory of like 3D printers and really fun stuff. You can just work on your little projects. Like, look at what makes you happy on the job description. Make sure the salary meets your needs. Never be afraid to negotiate that. Never be afraid. If it doesn't work for you, ask for more. Like, um, if there's no mention of work-life balance in the description or like culture, be wary because they always love to use, and this is like I'm about to get a tattoo in my forehead. Fast-paced environment.
Yeah.
There's no such thing. They're lying to you. It's not fast-paced. You're going to sit in a cubicle and read five emails, an hour. It's not. Don't let them lie to you. Um, Another one I saw recently. I've been, just I always scroll on LinkedIn. That we work hard, so we play hard. No, you can work hard, but it doesn't. Hard work doesn't mean you get to like have a good time afterwards. Like if you are a nine to fiver, you put in your time 9 to 5, shut your computer and enjoy your life. There's so much more to offer than slaving for these giant corporations. That was like a strong word there, but you are replaceable always. And so if
Yeah.
that job description is like showing you like just work, 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 and they don't have any like thing fun like talk about, it's probably not a good vibe. Um, if you're in an interview, never be afraid to ask why the job is open, why they have the position open, who was
Yeah.
there before them. Like it's a common question. A lot of people don't ask it, but if a job's been open for 3 months and they can't fill it, you deserve to know why, and it's probably a good reason. So I'd say look out for that. Um, the other red flag would be unrealistic expectations.
Mhm.
So if they're like, we want you to on day one hit the ground running, like whatever, whatever. No, day one is like you take your trainings, you're learning like who your teammates' names are. Like there is no hit the ground running. I at the startup it was like that. They're like, we want you to come in and just run. But again, that's a different culture, right? So startup, it's a company that's not like progressed yet. They're still getting funding. They're not fully formed. They're not mature. You're going to be doing things that you didn't expect, right? But if you're trying to join like an Amazon, these big companies, make sure those expectations are set like within means, and that like ask during your interview like what's day one look like, what's week one look like, and make sure that they're elaborating and that you're not just getting blindsided that you think it's a beautiful job and then you start and they're like, by the way, like you have a report due next week, and you're like, what report? What is a report? Like what am I doing? Um, And the final thing to look out for is growth opportunities. So if you go for a role and during the interview you say like, well, what's 4 years look like for me at this company, right? And they're like, well, you could be like a senior, probably. No. If you are not trying to like, so like Lockheed's right now paying for my master's degree, and they're always trying to find ways that I can try new things or grow, right? If they have no interest in letting you grow through a role where like, okay, you may start at, point A. If they have no point Z in mind for you, it's not worth it. You'll be stuck. You'll sit there doing the same work over and over again, no matter how good you get, no matter how efficient you are, no matter how great of an employee you are. If they know that they want you in that role and they're going to give you no growth opportunities, run. Absolutely run. You need to be able to grow in long term, or you're going to get nowhere.
So that's a good point. So the thing is the work-life balance, you got to ask about that, the growth opportunities and their expectations. I feel like those are three
Yes.
great things to give anybody because what are they expecting from me? And is it reasonable expectations? How am I going
Yes.
to
Yes. Yes.
grow?
Yes.
And then do they care about me as like a person?
Yeah.
Mentally
Yeah. Yeah.
and my life, which is great. A lot of companies don't these days, and I can tell from experience. So this is all
Sure.
really, yeah, this is like really interesting information. And so, if anybody, this may be going out on a limb, but if anybody wants to be like maybe mentored by you, because you sound like you're really well versed, could they reach out to you if they have like a question? On a job opportunity or classes maybe in school that they should take. Are you open to that?
Yeah, definitely. Reach out to me on LinkedIn for sure. That's like the most like professional, easiest way to reach me for job
Right.
stuff. I'm actually mentoring two people right now through my master's degree, so
Oh,
there's always
nice.
room for more. We hold either weekly or bi-weekly meetings just to go over like coursework. Are you applying to internships? So yeah, if anybody is
Oh,
looking for
that's
resources,
great.
I'm always ready to provide. I can put you in connections with like people that have really helped me grow throughout my career, of course. So LinkedIn is the place to be for that.
Just the top. So we'll tag your LinkedIn because I thought just so you speak, I was like, you would be great to like mentor somebody, and you're already doing that. So that's great.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, it's
I'm
funny.
really
My
glad to
professor
hear that.
reached out and has me mentor just because he said it was a good opportunity. So I was like, why not? This is my first time mentoring, so it's
Mhm.
been rewarding, I'd say.
It is. It's very rewarding. So again, Brandon, thank you so much for your time and sharing us a little bit about your tech career, engineering, because I know nothing about it. So it's really interesting. And we covered a lot of questions. So I'm so grateful that you joined us. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.